Need to go watch that. Have you watched The Creator? Sam, The Creator, is unbelievably good. I went into it not expecting it to be like incredible.
Another jacket.
Yeah, worth it. And it was so much better than I thought it was going to be. It was so good. And the girl that plays Alfie is so good. Like, she should win like Best Actress. Her performance at the end was incredible. I was worried about it because Gareth Edwards is the director that directed the movie, and Gareth Edwards has really only done a few things. Gareth Edwards directed, like, got a name for himself whenever he directed the Godzilla movie, that newer one with Bryan Cranston in it. And, you know, it wasn't like the best thing in the world, but it wasn't bad. It had a lot of like really interesting stuff in it, a lot of really interesting potential.
I get it.
And I really enjoyed it, even though it was obviously like very heavily produced and was a big blockbuster or whatever.
And please stop asking.
But it had a lot of potential, even though it wasn't like the best thing in the world. And so I went back and I watched the movie that basically got Gareth Edwards the contract to direct Godzilla. Was a movie that an independent movie that he made called Monsters, which was kind of just basically Godzilla. There were like, it's this found footage movie where there are giant monsters that are like invading the world, and you follow these two characters that are like journalists documenting the invasion of these monsters. And it's a very good, like, has a lot of potential, but it's obviously like very limited by the size of its budget and its production capacity. And so both of those films like had a lot of potential, but like weren't the best things in the world for like other reasons. And then Gareth Edwards made Rogue One, which was also very good, but had a lot of problems because it seemed like it had a lot of, you know, fingers in the pie. It was very heavily produced. It obviously was chopped the heck up in post. And so I've been cursed for like a long time. Monsters and Godzilla and Rogue One, with feeling like Gareth Edwards has a lot of potential, but never really knowing, because there was always a reason, a pretty good reason why, like, maybe all of the things that are bad with this movie weren't actually Gareth Edwards' fault. And so
It's all right.
Whenever Andor came out, Tony Gilroy is the showrunner for Andor, and Tony Gilroy is the showrunner for Andor, and Tony Gilroy did an interview on a podcast talking about the development of Andor and the development of Rogue One. And Tony Gilroy basically, like, without completely saying it, was like,
Great find.
oh yeah, the state that Rogue One was in whenever they brought me in, because that's the way that Disney has talked about it ever since Rogue One came out and didn't do super good at the box office. Disney has been like, yeah, well, we had some trouble with Rogue One because Gareth Edwards made the movie and he made a really bad movie. It was like unwatchable, it was so bad. And so we had to bring a different director in, Tony Gilroy, to rewrite a lot of it and do a bunch of reshoots and recut, like, especially like the ending. And so Tony Gilroy basically confirmed that on the podcast whenever he was talking about the creation of Rogue One. He was like, yeah, whenever they brought me in, Rogue One was horrible, like was in no state to like be released, and I had to do a lot of work on that. And Andor was so unbelievably incredibly good that, like, I was pushed towards attributing all the really good things about Rogue One. I was pushed towards accrediting those things to Tony Gilroy because it sounded like, the way that Tony Gilroy put it, maybe Gareth Edwards is actually a bad filmmaker, and all of the really interesting potential that I had seen in his previous films was just, was other people and not him. So I was worried that, like I said, I pretty much felt like I had it confirmed from Tony Gilroy that maybe Gareth Edwards ain't great. And so whenever the creator was coming out, I was like, oh man, well, I'm pretty sure all the interesting stuff that happened in Monsters and Godzilla, I don't think any of that was actually Gareth Edwards. It felt like a real Neill Blomkamp situation. Like, Neill Blomkamp was a real big up-and-coming director and kind of has like a very similar like aesthetic to Gareth Edwards. And Neill Blomkamp made District 9, which is an incredible film, but then he demonstrated with every movie that he made after District 9 to this day, like Neill Blomkamp just made that awful looking, that I haven't watched, but like completely flopped to the box office, that awful looking Gran Turismo or something.
Oh,
movie.
That looked so bad.
Was it bad?
Oh, it looked so bad.
It looked terrible. That's what Neill Blomkamp is doing. And so Neill Blomkamp was kind of a similar thing where like District 9 was incredible, but obviously District 9's incredibleness was not Neill Blomkamp's like skill as a director. And so I thought Gareth Edwards was the same thing. And so whenever I started seeing the trailers for the creator, I was like, this looks super sick and very cool, but it's Gareth Edwards, and I basically feel like I've had it confirmed that Gareth Edwards is not a very good director. So I didn't have high hopes going into it.
Good to see Grease again.
But then
Been a long time.
watched the creator. And like I said, it absolutely blew my mind how great it was. And it's not like a perfect movie by any means.
Why'd you ask me?
But
I don't like you.
the character development and the story and the cinematography and the world building and the themes and the subtext, and it just is like the anti-imperialist themes of the story are just unbelievably well crafted and well made. And like I said, it's just the aesthetic and the world are so rich and textured, and I can't remember what his name, John David Washington, was unbelievable. The girl who plays Alfie was unbelievable. It just was such a very, very, very good movie. Music by Hans Zimmer, cinematography by Greg Fraser. It just was beautiful to look at and beautiful to experience. And I was so relieved that it does seem like, yes, maybe Gareth Edwards actually has some skill as a director. So we'll see going forward in the future. But I'm very excited to see what Gareth Edwards puts together moving forward.
Unstoppable as ever, BD.
Because, like I said, the creator was incredible. And I think Gareth Edwards has demonstrated that he has a lot of potential as a director and is not like a Neill Blomkamp.